Alright, so my friends, welcome. We're doing our Dominaria and then a complete set review. Every single freaking card. Constructed, limited, we're doing all of them. Alright, if you missed white, blue, black, or red, all on YouTube, go watch them, alright? The whole thing's on YouTube, go check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment, it takes half a second, support me as a content creator. We got things coming up. We got 10 new brews. Boom, that's on Tuesday. We got Poker Night, that's Saturday. Fantasy Football lineups are Sunday. Tons of awesome stuff happening in Discord. We also have our freaking pre-release as well. It's all happening in Discord. It's all free to play. If you're a pile driver, as a YouTube member or Twitch sub, get on there, and I'll see you there. All right, let's go. Let's go right now. We're just gonna freaking go. We're doing green cards. Boom. First card, Barkweave Crusher. 4 mana for a 2/5 with Enlist, and Enlist, of course, not a very exciting mechanic, except for limited. And this is obviously a limited card, but you know, like a high toughness creature makes sense for Enlist because you can kind of, pump the power up and attack. But this is a very middling card, very, very replaceable 4-drop. Not very excited about this card. I'm not very excited about Enlist in general, honestly. So pretty replaceable or common here for limited. Nothing too crazy. Bite Down is next. 2 mana for an instant. Creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. This is like your good common kill spell unlimited. Obviously, it's a removal spell in green, which is great. There is some blow-up potential where if they kill your thing in response, you get absolutely wrecked. But just be smart. Don't be afraid to play this card on your own turn while your opponent's tapped out. All right, that's my one piece of advice for you for limited. Don't be afraid to play your instant sorcery speed. Okay, got it. Good draft card. Nothing too crazy here. Up next is Bog Badger. And Bog Badger is our Bombin Common. 3 mana for a 3/3. Sure, that's it. Just vanilla creature. However, if you kick it for 1 black, when it ETBs, all creatures you control get menace until end of turn. So we have a creature that's already on rate. A 3/3 for 3 is totally reasonable, right? Super solid card, play it on curve, whatever. But once you're in turn, 6 or 7, the board's kind of gummed up, and you play this card, give yourself menace, now all bets are off. Blocking becomes horrendous for your opponent, and this card is really, really solid. So this card's going to end a lot of games and make a lot of combat steps really, really awkward for your opponent. Great common, super, super solid. Like this card a lot. The rate is there, the ability's there. Bombin Common, and don't play this card instructed. Simple as that. Broken Wings, reprint, sideboard card. Colossal Growth, 2 mana for an instant. This is a giant growth for 2, +3/+3. Or you can kick it and pay a red and give the creature +4/+4 instead, and trample and haste. So, pretty good pump spell. Giant growth for 2 mana, I am not happy with. Again, as I say a lot, I love 1 mana tricks limited. I don't like 2 mana tricks that much, unless they have a huge amount of upside. But trample is a pretty good upside. So the fact that this can be a trick in the mid game and then later on can push through a lot of damage is pretty cool. If you're a very aggressive red-green deck, this card's kind of awesome. And then the way late game, if you're in kind of a top deck situation and you have this card in your hand, you draw that 4/4 and you just slam it as an 8/8 haster, that's pretty cool too. It's a little extra upside, won't happen too often, but kind of cool. But yeah, this card is definitely a very reasonable card in limited. Good aggressive card. I wouldn't want to play this card if I'm not aggressive. And I wouldn't want too many of this card. This is a solid common. Nothing incredible, but solid. Deathbloom Gardener is next. 3 mana for a 1/1 Death Touch mana creature. Kind of a weird one. Very, very fragile mana creature. It has Death Touch, so it blocks well. But you don't always want to block with your mana creature. And it costs 3. So this card is weird. I think at 2 mana, or if it's a 1/3, this card gets a lot better. But very, very awkward card. Cool art. But all in all, this card's definitely playable, but I don't think you're very thrilled about it. Also, you're desperate for a mana fixer. Just okay. Just an okay draft card. Defiler of Vigor. No awards? Okay, no awards here. This is the green entry into the Defiler cycle. This is definitely the best Defiler. It's not close. This is a 5 mana, 6/6 trample. So the rate there is reasonable. And then it has the ability where, like all the other ones, you can not pay a green and pay 2 life instead, which is fine. Most importantly, though, whenever you cast a green permanent spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Not one, each. So it has the problem of it doesn't do anything the turn you cast it, aside from just being big. But if you get to untap with it, all bets are off. All your shit gets huge really, really fast. So this one is, it's kind of iffy because the reality is that, like, you just can't really afford to necessarily play a 5-mana 6/6. That's not like Urborglargoyf levels, power level. But it is pretty powerful if it sticks. So this card definitely has potential for constructed. Not a ton, but potential for sure. And in limited, woo! Slam dunk first pick in limited. Unbelievable card. And yeah, I mean, obviously with Llanowar Elves and Pioneer and Historic and stuff like that, if you're able to play this card and then just like cast a free Llanowar Elf to pump your team, it's pretty cool as well. So yeah, definitely the best defiler. Solid card for sure. But all in all, I don't know if it has what it takes in constructed. Moving on to Elfhame Warren. You ever want to see the difference in a mythic and a common? Or a rare and a common? Here you go. 5 mana for a 6/6 trample. And a bunch of other stuff. Or 5 mana for a 5/4 trample with vigilance. But it's an okay draft card. 4 toughness is a hard sell because it's going to trade down more than you would like it to. This is a 5/5. I'm all about this card. But as a 5/4, it's okay. The problem with vigilance here is that, like, when this attacks, it's probably going to end up trading. So it's not going to be able to block anyway. But whatever. It's a curve topper and limited. It's not a great card, but it's an okay card. It's fine. Not a card I'm looking to just slam into my decks, but it's all right. It's all right. Elvish Hydromancer. 3 mana for a 3/2 elf wizard. So decent, stats. Okay. Kicker is 4, blue and 3. When it ETBs, if it was kicked, create a token as a copy of a creature you control. This card is sweet. So it is 7 mana, but immediately puts a copy of your best creature on the battlefield. Now, of course, if they kill it in response, it's a huge devastating blowout. But if you're just like copying a 4/4 or a 5/5 with this, and you're spending 7 mana to get a 5/5 and a 3/2, that's pretty awesome. This is a pretty solid card. And then worst case scenario, it's a 3/2 for 3, which is fine. It trades up. That's a size. That's like your very, very average limited size. So that's kind of fine as well. So solid card for sure. Cool top end card. I'm sure you can do some really fun stuff with this. Card sweet. Solid limited card for sure. Constructed, obviously no, but solid draft card. I can't say that. What do you... Who names these cards? It's like they name the cards to watch me do my set review. The Vine Wall here is a 2 mana 0/2 defender. So sizing wise, not great. Although there are a lot of 1/1 tokens in the set. So it can block some things. But most important is look at the top 6 cards of your library, review a land, and put it in your hand. Doesn't need to be a basic. So this is pretty cool. This can go get your dual lands, which is important for domain. It can chump block or whatever. If there are things that sacrifice creatures for value, we can do that. So there's some more than meets the eye here for sure. This card's okay. I haven't seen a lot of sacrifice effects in black. There's no like Deadly Dispute or things like that. So that being said, I don't know if there's really a thing for that. But 2 mana to go find a good land and make a chump blocker is fine as well. It replaces itself. Think of this as, tutor up a good land and block and gain 3 life. That's fine. That's not that bad at all. So definitely a solid common. It's also a defender, which is very important for your defender synergies. So if you're playing the defender deck, it's a piece for that. So more than meets the eye kind of card for sure. This is going to be a good draft card. Limited constructed? No, but solid draft card for sure. Gaia's Might returns. Gaia's Might. All mana instant. Domain. It's a giant growth for basic land types. Of course, this card saw play in Modern way back in the day. And extended also. My GP top 8 in 2007. Raph Levy won the event playing a zoo deck playing Gaia's Might. So that's cool. A boomer alert. But yeah, kind of a weird pump spell because you don't often have a bunch of land types in your aggro deck. If you're playing a fetch land, shock land format, you can do that. That's an easier thing to do. But in limited or in standard, that's a little harder to do. So if it's a giant growth in limited, I think you're not that unhappy. I don't think your domain deck's really going to want a pump spell in limited. So there's a lot of tension there for sure. And then in constructed, same thing, same problem. So A very, very conflicted card, all in all. I don't think this card is particularly great on any end of the spectrum, but it's cool reprint. It's kind of cool. Herd Migration. We got a sleeper, folks. I like this card. This card is sweet. 7 mana for a sorcery. A domain. Make a 3/3 beast for each basic land type among lands you control. So with full domain, this is 5 3/3 beasts for 7 mana, which is pretty good. If that was all the card did, you know, we're not really there. However, it's basically a split card. It has 2 mana basic land cycling, essentially. You discard this, search for basic land, and you gain 3 life. And it's it does only get basic land. It is not basic land types, but that's still good. So you look at the land you want. It's basically a revitalize, just like 2 mana, draw card, gain 3. You get to kind of gain the life back for the time it takes to cast this card. It buys you into the big stuff, and it's also a big card later. I think this card is great. Super, super overlooked card so far. I think this card's really, really cool. It's a great top-end card. 5 3/3 is a great stabilizing element against aggro decks, and a great number of threats against control decks that you really can only beat with a Wrath, which is great. It's only one card anyway. Card's sweet. I love this card. I think it's super, super awesome, and I think this card's very, very exciting. And limited, Slam Dunk Bomb, obviously, super great card. And yeah, card's great. That's my sleeper for the set. Herd Migration, card's awesome. Love it. Domain Enabler and Payoff. I agree. Super, super great. Hexbane Tortoise. Hexbane Tortoise is a 3 mana 3/2 Ward 2, which is kind of weird because I don't know why your 3/2 common needs Ward. Like who's, oh, I got to kill that freaking turtle, you know? Oh no, what am I going to do if the turtle's going to get me? And it has Enlist, but Enlist is pretty bad on a low toughness creature. So this card is really, really weird. If this was like a 2/3, it would make a little more sense. But all in all, like, I don't know what deck wants this card. It feels like a filler common and limited. So not very excited about Hexbane Tortoise. Leaf Crown Visionary, also very good. This is the green entry into the tribal 2 mana Lord cycle. Green for a 1/1. Pumps your elves. Most importantly, though, if you cast an elf spell, you may pay a green if you do draw a card. That's a bananas ability. So elf decks are great at making a bunch of mana, but often run out of gas. And this card just kind of gives you a glimpse of the unthinkable. You can just go nuts. So I think this card's got legs in all formats. Legacy, Modern, Pioneer, Historic, etc., etc. Standard, there probably just aren't enough elves. I imagine you're going to want to have Llanowar Elves in the format that you're playing this card. But even if it's just like turn 1 Llanowar Elves, actually, that's not enough. Whatever. But sure. Card's great. Super, super cool. The one toughness, again, like the Goblin Lord, is kind of an issue because it dies to Ren and 6, and it dies to some of the other effects. But still, a good card, to say the least. And for all you elf fans out there, you got a good one here. I don't know why it needed to be green. It couldn't just be green colorless, but whatever. Good card. Good card. Definitely a lack of tribal cards in the current sets in Standard, which is always kind of the issue. It's very hard to build a tribal deck in Standard because there aren't enough actual goblins or elves or whatever. Hopefully they'll print more as the sets go on. But card's great. And then in Limited, there are a number of elves. I have not been counting creature types, but if you ever draw one card of us, you're way ahead. So that's pretty sweet. Up next is Linebreaker Bailoff. We have a 5 mana 4/5 with Enlist and can't be blocked by creature's power 2 or less. So it can't be chump blocked. You can enlist onto it. Again, Enlist is like, you know, it's all right. It's not great. 4/5 for 5 is okay. All in all, middling uncommon here. If you need a big creature, sure, but I'm not happy to not play this card, you know? It's just kind of whatever. Llanowar Green Widow. Best in show. This card impresses me. This card is got a lot going on for a very low cost. So 3 mana for a 4/3 reach trample is a good rate. As a solid card, it plays good defense. It plays pretty good offense. That's reasonable. And it has the ability to domain 8 mana. Return from the graveyard tapped, and it gains, if it would leave the battlefield, exile it, and it costs 1 less for each basic land type. So 1 Triome, and this thing costs 5 to bring back. So it's a good 3-drop. You play it, you trade it off. Then on turn 5 at instant speed, you can flop it back into play again, which is great. So I think this card's super, super solid. It's cheap. It's effective. There has to be a domain deck. But if there isn't a domain deck, like even if this card returns for only 3, I mean only for 5 mana instead of 3, that's still super solid. You know, like it's just like a reasonable thing to have later on. Card's sweet. Obviously very, very scary. Shelob, etc., so on and so forth. Hopefully that's Sam down there and not Frodo. But yeah, very, very solid card. Just the kind of card where like it's got a lot of words on it, but the starting point is just decent rate. 4/3 reach trample for 3 is fine. Let's go from there. This card's super solid. And then if you're playing some sort of like self-mill maybe or something like that, that'd be kind of cool as well. But solid card. Like it a lot. A lot of the green cards I was conflicted on. I think this card's super solid though. Super solid card. And limited, phenomenal card. Phenomenal card for sure. Great rate. Comes back twice. Card advantage. Couldn't ask for more. Llanowar Loam Speaker is next. That is not best in show. Oh my god, wrong button. That is not best in show. 2 mana for a 1/3. Mana creature taps for any color, which is very good. And then it can make a land into a 3/3 haster until end of turns to a land as a sorcery. This card's cool. I mean, like, more of a mana creature than anything else. I think the secondary ability, you're not going to want to use that often because you don't want to risk losing your lands that often, but pressuring planeswalkers and stuff like that is a reasonable thing to do. And then, again, just a 1/3 mana elf for 2 that taps for any colors. It's just a fine card. Some decks are going to want this. You know, it's the kind of card where, like, some decks will just want this card. They want a mana creature. It's got 3 toughness. It's fine. So, we'll definitely see constructed play. Great limited card. Obviously, just a good mana creature. Just solid. Nothing fancy, just solid. It's an elf, too. That might matter as well, but... Llanowar Stalker. 1 mana for an elf warrior. So, it's 1 mana elf. Whenever another creature ETBs under your control, +1/+0. So, in constructed, this could be your elf 1-drop, right? If there's going to be an elf deck, it's also not a terrible aggro creature. If you're just like curving out, it's like a Savannah Lion. If you're playing tokens, it can be a little bigger. And then in limited, this feels like a green-white card, where there's a lot of token makers in white. They can make this thing attack for 3 or 4. And what's kind of cool is this card does enlist pretty well. So it is pretty weak as far as, it attacks and trades off at things. But if you just like play a creature and then use it to enlist for 2, it's not that bad either. So as far as 1-drops goes, pretty solid limited card, I think. Constructed playable for sure because 1-drops are not a common sight. But solid card. Solid card. Maggoth Sentry. Can I get a round of F's in chat for Giant Spider?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Giant Spider was in every Magic set for the first 20 years of the game. It was a solid draft common at all points. Giant Spider was this card -2 power. Power creep, folks. Power creep. Holy shit. Sentry is a 4 mana 4/4 reach. That's just a solid limited card. I mean, it blocks your flyers. It's a good size. There's not much to say. It's a good 4-drop. Definitely not a filler level 4-drop. This is a solid 4-drop. I can imagine cutting this card from your deck if you have a bunch of good 4s already. But very solid common. It's not a spider, just a free folk. Pour one out for Giant Spider. All right, poor Giant Spider. Mossbeard Ancient. Now this is a draft card. All right, where are my Honey Mammoth lovers at? 7 mana for a 7/7 trample. That is a honking, chonker.
Good lord. Gigantic.
It's got trample, very important. And when it ETBs, you gain 5 life. So a huge stabilizing creature here. This is the top end card you want in your big green deck. If you're ramping or you're playing a late game, this is it. You slam this down, you gain 5 life, and you start to turn the corner and take over the game. Herd Giant Hillgorger on steroids. I love this card. I'm going to draft the shit out of this card. Honestly, I love big dumb green decks and love big spell decks. And this card is perfect for that. So I'm all about it. It's uncommon. Big boom boom. Ship it. Nishoba Brawler. This is an interesting card as well. Kind of in the same vein of Gaia's Might. 2 mana for a star 3 trample. It has power equal to your domain. So with 1 Triumph in play, it's a 3/3. Which is pretty good, honestly. The floor is basically a 2/3 if you're a 2-color deck. As you get more lands, it gets bigger to be a total of a 5/3. The third toughness is very important because it can at least block early on as you're kind of developing. This card's pretty good. This is definitely a very good limited card as long as you're playing at least 3 colors, if not more. If you are playing the domain deck, card seems excellent. Even if you're not, like a 2/3 or a 3/3 for 2 is fine. And then constructed, though, I don't really see how the domain deck would want to play a card like this. It's kind of like an aggressive 2-drop, whereas they want to be ramping and doing bigger things, I think. So constructed, this card misses for me, but in limited, it's a solid card for sure. Solid card. And then somehow if we end up with some sort of weird like aggressive domain deck, which I don't think will happen in Constructed. This card's obviously going to be in it, but I don't think it makes it. Quirion Beast Caller is our next card. 2 mana for a 2/2 Dryad Warrior. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Quirion Beast Caller. Whenever it dies, distribute X+1/+1 counters among any of target creatures you control, or X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Quirion Beast Caller. So, this card is kind of cool. It's a bear to start, which is obviously not super exciting. Then you untap, you play 2 spells, now it's a 4/4, which is kind of cool. The problem is, I think this card wants you to play a pretty critical mass of cheap creatures. If this card was an elf, I would think we would be like off to the races, you know? But it's a Dryad Warrior, and I don't know if this card really fits in a sort of like stompy deck. You know, you play this, then next turn you play your whatever 3-drop, it becomes a 3/3. That's okay. It's not great. It's just fine. If they just kill it before it does anything, it needs to actually have counters on it to be useful. So I don't know. This card's like probably going to play a little better than it looks in Constructed, but I just don't think there's really a home for it. Now, if you're playing Pioneer or whatever else, and you're looking at playing Hardened Scales or things like that, maybe then you're like pushing over the top enough where you're like getting 2 counters now and it sort of works. But I don't know. I just think this card's kind of It's all right. It's fine. It might see some play, but it just feels a little too unexciting for me. Not really feeling it. In Limited, bonkers. Great card, obviously. Just super, super on-rate card. But Constructed, don't think it's there. Just don't think it's there. Up next is Scout the Wilderness. 3 mana for a sorcery. It is a Rampant Growth. Social life for a basic land card, put it by tap and shuffle. Kicker is 2 mana for 2/1/1 soldier tokens. So, 2 mana for a Rampant Growth, or 5 mana for a Rampant Growth and a Raise the Alarm. Time will tell how fast the format is. The 3 mana Rampant Growths are usually not good enough in Limited because you can't take turn 3 off. However, this is like sort of a payoff and an enabler where like later on you can get a land and get some creatures to block with and buy some more time. You know, we'll see how important Domain actually is, as well as how fast the format is. That will be a large part of how good this card is, but on the whole, this card is probably fringy only if you're really like domaining it up and you need to get your basic lands. I think if you're going to be playing Domain, you're going to want the dual lands more than cards like this, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Silverback Elder. Nothing. This card's fine, but kind of unexciting. Green 2 for a 5/7 Ape Shaman. All right, so it's big. Don't get me wrong, it's big.
Oh my God, Becky.
Whenever you cast a creature spell, choose one. Disenchant, look at the top 5 cards of your library and get a land and put it into play, or gain 4 life. Now, the thing is, what deck wants this card? You know, like, am I playing a Stompy deck? And if I am, I've probably already played out most of my hand. And then I play a creature, and what does my Stompy deck want? Do I want to disenchant something? I guess, you know. Don't want to get more lands? Not really. Gain 4 life? I guess. I mean, sure, you know. So we have a 5 mana creature that doesn't affect the board the turn you cast it. And if we're in like a mid-rangey deck, like none of these abilities just seem particularly exciting for what this card is doing. If you're looking at Pioneer, this card pales in comparison to Cavalier of Thorns, which is a card that does them when you play it and when it dies, you know, and ramps too. So I think all in all, this card just seems kind of You know, I don't really see a deck that would want to play this card that's also playing a lot of creatures and then it also wants to use the abilities as well. So I think as far as 6-drops goes, the Phyrexian Defiler card, the 6/6 for 5 is a much better 6-drop. And this card is just okay. Just okay. You know, it's fine. Won't see play. Maybe if it's some sort of like creature-heavy mid-range deck, I could buy it. But all in all, I'm just not that impressed. In Limited, it's bonkers, obviously. Just like a huge creature with great value, which is totally fine. But in Constructed, I don't know. Just eh. Moving on to Slimefoot's Survey. This is an interesting one. I said 5, whatever. 5, 6, whatever. Slimefoot's Survey is a 5-mana sorcery. It has Domain. Search the library for up to 2 land cards that each have a basic land type. So, right off the bat, this is Domain in Constructed. You get 2 Triomes, Easy game. Now you have all your types, yada, yada, yada. So this is an enabler for a domain, but of course it costs 5. Load the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types, most lands you control, but 1 on top and the rest on the bottom. So this card, like, it's kind of cool that it's like instant domain, and you get a bunch of extra like value. It was like not a bunch. You get some extra value off of it, but we're only putting a card on top, and it costs 5 mana, and we're not really affecting the board because we're not getting lands that actually do anything. I think all in all, this card is just a little too expensive. I think if this card drew a card, if this card like made a Saproling token or two, just did something to help you defend yourself from, you know, the playing 5 mana spell with nothing on the board, you know, we'd be talking about a really sweet card here. But otherwise, it just doesn't do enough. You know, this is definitely not our promise. Our promise getting 2/2/2s is you know, great. You know, this thing made 2 Saprolings. I may be talking about a serious card here, but all in all, not really good enough. In limited, kind of the same problem, you know, where it was ramps to your like really big stuff, but like you're just taking a huge turn off here. Not really there. As far, I feel like this card might have cost 4 in like testing, and they just like had to put it to 5 if it was just too good at 4. But overall, not super excited about it. It kind of sucks too. It's kind of a cool card, but poor Slimefoot, just not good enough. Snare Spinner, 2-drop, blocks flyers. Play this card in your sideboard probably. I mean, don't want to start this card usually, but you know, whatever. Strength of a Coalition. We have an uncommon instant for a green. It's a +2/+2 till end of turn. You can kick it for a white and 2, and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Another blowout off-color kicker uncommon. You know, as a pump spell, 1 mana +2/+2 is fine if unexciting. You know, I do love 1 mana tricks, but this fully kicked is devastating. You know, we've already seen that white wants to go super wide with tokens and stuff like that. So if I have some tokens in play, I pump one thing up, pump the rest of a team up. This card's awesome. So phenomenal limited card. Card's super great. It's literally Groot. I am Groot. Yes. Someone's gonna sue somebody, but yes, card's super awesome and great draft card. Honestly, this is the kind of card that like maybe constructed, probably not, but it's not that far off of constructed, honestly. Sunbathing Roosh, 2 mana for a 2/2. Domain, pay 4, +1/+1 to end a turn for each basic land type most land you control. Activate only once this turn. Good 2-drop for limited, honestly. If you only have like 2 or 3 land types, just like being a 5 late in the game is good. It's a bear, it's got a mana snake ability, just a fine 2-drop. It's a fine 2-drop. Tail Swipe, not quite Blizzard Brawl, but 1 green instant. Choose a creature, and it fights a creature your opponent controls. If you play it during your main phase, it gets a +1/+1 to end of turn. So, pretty good card, honestly. I mean, the fight cards in green are obviously reasonable, and then you're going to use this card a lot in your main phase just to, like, clear a blocker or whatever. This card's good. Card's reasonable. Definitely a good draft card, and then in constructed, it has an outside shot. Tear Asunder. This card's good. Tear Asunder is a 2 mana instant. It's a super disenchant because it exiles the target. So, deglamour, kind of, sort of. That's solid, honestly. This card to see play like in sideboards of like older formats because exiling an artifact or enchantment is pretty good. Then you can pay a black and 1 as a kicker, and it can go on and exile any non-land permanent instead. That's good. So we have a 4 mana exile anything. What's it called? Utter End, which is like not particularly cost effective, but still flexible and good. Then we have a disenchant on the front side as well. This is probably not a card you main deck. Like maybe in standard you can main deck this card. I think you main deck this card if like you're expecting to kill artifacts and enchantments with it a lot of the time. But the flexibility is pretty good. But very good sideboard card because exiling artifacts and enchantments is just good. It's just a thing decks need to do sometimes, you know? So solid card for sure. I like it. Yeah, great limited card obviously because it's just a 4 mana removal spell, which is great. Deck's good. The card's good. Just a good solid card. Territorial Marrow. 5 mana for a star. Domain. Power and toughness equal to double the lands you control. Land types. So it can be a 10/10 with full domain. That's pretty awesome. Cool build around Unlimited for sure. You know, if you're playing a domain deck, even if you're just playing like 3 land types, right? You just have a 6/6 for 5, which is pretty good too. So I like it. Good card. Turbo Mark Rosewater. Yeah, Territorial Mark Rosewater. Got it. And yeah, good draft card. Good payoff being a domain deck. Also a card you can splash. So if you're like not base green. You can just like splash this in your 3-color deck and make it an 8/8. Threats Undetected.
It's a trap.
This card like wants to be good. So this card's obviously a riff off of Gifts Ungiven, which is a very popular card from a long time ago that saw a lot of play in Standard and Extended and stuff like that. Not really good enough anymore, but was a very good card. And this is a green version that cares about creatures. So they meant it for a sorcery, not an instant. Search the library for the 4 different creatures. I'm sorry, for up to 4 creature cards with different powers, and then reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Those get shuffled into your library. Put the rest in your hand. So there are a lot of things here that make this much, much worse than Gifts Ungiven. And things that make me sad, honestly, because this card could be a pretty cool card. So it's a sorcery, which sucks. That's just not good. Their mana is fine, but would love to see this card as an instant. End step, do your thing, yada, yada, yada. Then, unlike Gifts Ungiven, the cards that they don't choose shuffle in. They don't go to your graveyard. So the cool thing about Gifts was you'd make these piles that were like, the card I want, Eternal Witness, whatever, Raise Dead, Regrowth, or whatever. And like, you'd always get the card you want, just like after some finagling, which is kind of fun. So these Gifts decks have these cool toolboxes, and you can kind of have these little toolboxes and this and there, and you get some graveyard card, flashback, or whatever, it was cool. It was sweet. This card can't do that. It's a sorcery. And getting different creatures is cool and all, but what it comes down to is you're just like casting Divination for 2 creatures. Which in Limited, it's fine, honestly. In Limited, you can just like get your 4 best creatures, draw 2 of them, whatever. But in Constructed, there's just no upside here. It's just been nerfed in so many different ways that, like, if this was a 4-mana instant that put the cards in the graveyard, this would be a really fun, interesting card. As it stands, it just sucks. I'm just bummed, honestly. It could have been a cool card. But it's not. Threats Undetected. Urborglargoyf. I like this card. All right. 2 mana for a star, +1/+star, or 1/+star for a Lurgoyf. Its power is equal to the number of creatures regard to your graveyard, and toughness equal to that number +1. So, power creatures in the graveyard, toughness +1. There are 5 creatures in your graveyard. It's a 5/6. Cool. Has kicker both blue and black, or black. And each time you kick it, you mill 3 cards. So this is a pretty sweet Boneyard Worm kind of graveyard card, where you just self-mill, do some self-mill stuff, build your graveyard, and bam, it's a 2-mana 5/6 or whatever, which is sweet. I love graveyard decks. I love synergy decks. Card's super cool. It's also cool that you can play it on 2, or you can use it later on to mill more cards. It's an enabler and a payoff. It's pretty cool. There's got to be a deck that wants to do that, of course. If there isn't no deck like that, the card's unplayable. But, cool card. Cool card for sure. Fun build around. In Limited, it's a great card. Pretty easy to make this like a 2/3 at least, at minimum. And, card's fun. Simple card. It's a fun card. I like it. Vine Shaper Prodigy, 2 mana for a 2/2. And if you pay 2 mana to kick it, including a blue mana, look at your top 3 cards, 1 in your hand, the rest at the bottom of your library. So cast Anticipate. Good draft common. It's a bear if you need it. It's a card advantage card if you need it. Obviously, a 2/2 for 4 that draws a card is not amazing, but fine. Some card selection is pretty cool. Just a good solid draft card. Nothing fancy here. Just a good solid draft card. Weatherseed Treaty. 3 mana for a read ahead saga. Chapter 1, Rampant Growth. Chapter 2, Mega Sapperling. Chapter 3, creature you control gets +X/+X and trampled end of turn, where X is the number of basic land types and lands you control. There's some value here, obviously. 3 mana Rampant Growth is like the standard, and as we said earlier, it's not that good. It's okay. It's not great. Getting a Sapperling is a fine little bonus, and then the pump thing. The problem is these domain sort of like aggressive, pumpy effects just don't make a lot of sense in a domain deck, because a domain deck wants to like get a bunch of colors in play and play some big spells. You're kind of like rapping. You're spitting bars. You're kind of ramping naturally because you need to find your colors anyway. And then once you've ramped, play a 6-drop, play a 7-drop. We don't need some crappy Sapperling and whatever. So as far as Constructed goes, this card doesn't really work. In Limited, this card's fine. You're getting some value off of it for sure. Rampant Growth for 3 isn't that far off. You get a token, a little pump. But yeah, it's just not that great of a card. And it's kind of a card that like is fighting itself. Which is not super great, but yeah, moving on. Moving on to the World Spell. Boy, Read Ahead Saga, 7 mana Mythic Saga. Chapter 1 and 2. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a non-saga permanent card from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So that's a lot of mana to put a permanent card into your hand. Do that twice. Chapter 3 is put up to 2 non-saga permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So kind of like a weird tooth and nail variant. But the problem is that you're spending 7 mana. And if you don't already have the things to put in play, you got to do chapter 1 and 2. And then you're spending 7 mana to do actual nothing. Just like 7 mana, draw a card. All right. Then draw a card. All right. Then put things into play. At that point, you should already have 8 or 9 mana. So what are you putting into play? You know, you're putting in like, if you go get like Emrakul and Xenagos, or like, you know, whatever, some of the old tooth and nail combos, you know, like the 2 creatures that do a lot together. Sure, but like, it's just so freaking slow that like, it doesn't even really matter, you know? 7 mana is a lot. So this card feels like it's kind of like a, you know, over-the-top silly commander card. I doubt this card will do anything constructed. In limited, I guess if you're like a really slow ramp deck and you want some card advantage or whatever, but this card seems bad, honestly. Just not. For 7 mana, you gotta do more than this, alright? You gotta do more than this. It's not good enough. Yavimaya Iconoclast. I like this card. 2 mana for a 3/2 with trample. Kicker 1 red. If you kick it, it gets +1/+1 and haste on the turn. So this thing's a 4/3 haster for 3 return you cast it, which is a pretty solid rate. And then a 3/2 trample otherwise. Probably not there constructed, but it's reasonable on rate. It's not that far off, you know. And then limited, just a great card. A 3/2 trample for 2 is fine. The kicker ability is also fine. It's an elf. Just a solid card. You know, solid rate. Probably not quite there constructed, but super solid card for limited. Yavimaya Sojourner. So this is the Affinity card in Affinity Common in green. 8 mana for a 4/6 with Domain Affinity. So every basic land type you have, it costs 1 less. If you have full Domain, this is going to cost a 3 mana for a 4/6, which is pretty good. Decent payout for being Domain. The problem is that, like, by the time you have Domain, you might already have, like, you have to have 5 lands in play if you're not using duels. And then you just, like, could cast this for 5 anyway. But it's alright. I think if this card, like, had Vigilance or gained some life or was a little bit bigger, maybe it'd be better. This feels like one of the worst of the Affinity cards. They're all been pretty good so far. So a little underwhelming, but it's an okay comment. It's an okay comment. So to recap on green, Best in Show, Llanowar Green Widow. Trap card, Threats Undetected. Our sleeper card is Herd Migration. I like this card a lot. And our Bombin Common is Bog Badger. And that is green. Wrap it up. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We got multicolor cards coming up next. Anything you miss is on YouTube. All right, go follow my YouTube channel. Go follow the Bronze Mythic YouTube channel. Go like every single video. Every single one. It's free to do, all right? Support me for free. I'm a content creator. This is my job, all right? I got to get paid, or I don't eat. My kid doesn't eat. I got a baby coming soon, all right? Seriously. 2 months. Holy shit. Whew. Crazy.